All right, y'all, clock out mentally and pull up a chair. Welcome to The Broken Shift, where the codes are emotional, the tea is hot, and the trauma, oh, it's charted, just not processed. Now, there's a kind of betrayal that cuts deeper than anything else. It's not the system. It's not the violence from a stranger. It's when the harm comes from the very person who was supposed to help you heal.
This episode is not easy, but it's necessary, because we're talking about something that most people don't want to believe is real. When the caregiver becomes the threat.
Abuse, neglect, assault, it's not just happening in the shadows. It's happening inside care homes, hospitals, rehab centers, sometimes committed by the same people paid to protect.
We're going to break this down in 5 parts. The crimes, the patterns, the research, the silence, and the staffing crisis that makes it all possible.
Because while we must hold individuals accountable for the harm they cause, we also have to ask what kind of system allows this to keep happening.
This is The Broken Shift. And today we're asking the question no one wants to face. What happens when care turns criminal?
Let's talk about what no family ever expects. You place your loved one in a hospital, a nursing home, a facility where professionals are trained to care, and instead of healing, they experience harm. Not from another patient, not from a system delay, from a staff member. In 2022, a Pennsylvania family placed their elderly father into a care home with high online ratings and a polished marketing brochure. Within 2 weeks, the son noticed bruises on his father's arm. The facility claimed it was due to a fall. But when the son placed a hidden camera in the room, what he saw was horrifying. A staff member yanking his father by the wrist, cursing, and ignoring his cries for help. It made headlines, but only after the footage went viral. And the aide? She'd been transferred from another unit where complaints had already been made. That's the kind of betrayal we're talking about.
We've seen the headlines. Caregivers caught on hidden cameras neglecting patients. Aides physically harming residents. Nurses walking past patients crying for help. And we've heard the excuses. It was an isolated incident. That's not who we are. We're investigating.
But behind every one of those headlines is a patient who was betrayed, a family that trusted, a system that failed to prevent or even notice what was happening.
It's uncomfortable, but here's the truth. Not all caregivers are safe. Not every nurse, aide, or staff member should be in the role they hold.
And when harm happens, we need to stop acting like it came out of nowhere, because often the signs were there. Understaffing, undertraining, unreported aggression, ignored complaints, leadership that prioritizes liability over lives.
In part 2, we'll look at the patterns, how facilities under pressure to perform often create the very conditions where abuse and neglect thrive. Let's talk about patterns, because while every incident may look isolated, the root causes often repeat, over and over.
Facilities that struggle with staff shortages, high turnover, and limited training are often the ones where abuse and neglect take root, and the data backs this up.
According to the National Center on Elder Abuse, nearly 1 in 3 U.S. nursing homes were cited for violations that had the potential to cause harm or actually did. The WHO reports that 2 in 3 staff members admitted to committing some form of abuse in the past year in institutional care settings.
2 out of 3. That should send a chill down anyone's spine, and it should shatter the illusion that this is rare. Just look at the case from 2023 in Florida, where a nurse aide at a state-run facility was caught on security footage aggressively yanking a nonverbal resident out of bed, leaving bruises. The family had been raising concerns for months, but it wasn't until the footage leaked to the media that any action was taken. That's not a one-off. That's a warning sign.
These are facilities where overworked, unsupported caregivers are pushed to their edge, and sometimes beyond. No breaks, no backup, no time, and no oversight.
And let's be clear, pressure doesn't excuse harm, but it does predict it.
You can only stretch a system so far before it breaks. And when it breaks, it doesn't just fall apart quietly. It hurts people.
People like Mr. Allen, an 84-year-old patient in a long-term care facility whose daughter told us her father was left sitting in soiled clothing for over 9 hours. No one responded to his call light. When she complained, the staff blamed the delay on being short-staffed.
Or like Janet, A retired teacher who was slapped across the face by an aide while being transferred. The aide said she was frustrated because she was caring for 18 patients by herself.
That's not a staff issue, that's a system failure.
In part 3, we'll dive into what the research says, the hard numbers, the workforce projections, and why everything we're seeing right now was predicted and preventable.
We've been sounding the alarm about the healthcare workforce crisis for years, but the truth is, the data saw this coming long before the headlines ever caught up.
According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the demand for registered nurses will grow by 6% through 2032. But that's not the alarming part. What's alarming is that nearly 1 million nurses are expected to exit the profession by then, many of them citing unsafe conditions, burnout, and moral injury.
Let's take it a step further. A 2023 report from the American Healthcare Association found that more than 94% of nursing homes said they didn't have enough staff to meet basic care standards, not complex procedures, not intensive interventions, just basic care.
And what happens when you don't have enough staff to meet basic needs? Corners get cut, patients get missed, anger festers, and the cracks start to become patterns of neglect.
There's also the issue of staff training. In many states, it takes more hours to become a barber than a certified nursing assistant. Let that sink in. We require more regulated training to cut hair than to care for someone's aging mother.
And while frontline staff are being stretched thin, leadership is still prioritizing optics, ratings, revenue, not retention, not wellness, not ethics.
This isn't just about bad apples. This is about rotten soil, a system that knew this was coming and did nothing to change it.
In part 4, we talk about the culture of silence, why so many staff stay quiet, and what it costs them to speak out.
Let's talk about the silence. The kind that creeps in after you've witnessed something wrong, but you're told to keep your head down.
Whistleblower protections sound good on paper, but in real life, nurses and aides who speak up about neglect or abuse are often labeled as problems, not protectors.
We've talked to nurses who've been retaliated against for reporting violence or negligence. Stories like a CNA who reported a coworker for rough handling and was suddenly taken off the schedule. A nurse who filed an incident report and was moved to the night shift in retaliation.
The culture of silence is deeply rooted in fear. Fear of losing your job, being isolated by your team, or worse, blacklisted by your employer.
According to a 2022 study published in Nursing Ethics, 48% of nurses surveyed said they had witnessed unethical behavior but didn't report it due to fear of reprisal.
Nearly half. Let that sink in.
We can't fix what we're too scared to name. And when we silence nurses, we're not just burying the truth, we're burying the people who depend on us to protect them.
In part 5, we bring it all together. The systems, the stats, the silence, and what real accountability would look like if we had the courage to demand it.
So what now? What does accountability actually look like in a system where harm has been normalized?
It starts with transparency, not silence. Facilities need to publicly report abuse incidents, not bury them in bureaucracy. Families deserve to know what kind of environment they're entrusting their loved ones to.
It means trauma-informed leadership, mandatory abuse prevention training, and it means no more loopholes that let repeat offenders get quietly shuffled to other units or worse, other facilities.
There should be minimum staffing ratios that are enforced, not just suggested. And those ratios should be backed by funding, not excuses.
And for the nurses and aides on the front lines, real whistleblower protections, not just a policy in a binder, but a culture that says, we've got your back.
Because silence costs lives, and support saves them.
If healthcare facilities want to rebuild trust, it starts with listening not just to patient families, but to the staff who are often the first to see when something's going wrong.
Next time on The Broken Shift, we look at the nurses who have spoken out and what happened after they did. Because sometimes accountability starts with one brave voice.
And you'll hear from one of them, a nurse who saw something, said something, and paid the price. Her words, "I didn't leave nursing because I couldn't handle it. I left because no one had my back when I spoke the truth." Until then, share this episode. Follow at the Bedside Rebel. And if you've ever been afraid to speak up, just know your truth matters
We see you, we hear you. This is The Broken Shift.
Before we close, let us leave you with this.
Did you know over 5,000 abuse complaints were filed in U.S. nursing homes in 2023 alone?
Did you know only 1 in 5 of those complaints resulted in a formal citation?
Did you know in some states, one nursing aide is expected to care for up to 20 residents on an overnight shift?
These aren't just statistics, these are signals, and they're screaming for change.
As one anonymous RN told us, we had a patient who developed bed sores so severe they became infected. I reported it twice. Then suddenly I wasn't on the schedule anymore. That's when I knew silence was the real policy.
And as Maya Angelou once said, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you.
If you've got a story that needs to be told, send it, share it. We'll protect your identity, but we won't protect the silence.
Because healing begins the moment truth is spoken. This is The Broken Shift, because nursing shouldn't break you,